Yes, Star Wars TV has been kicking Star Trek's TV's ass for a while now. This week, they went for the killer blow. Hello and welcome to the Review of Champions. It's time to talk about the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 5, Return of the Mandalorian. With me are Mr. Taylor first.
Hey, glad to be here.
The voice only Loki's mom.
Hi there.
Lord Deathman.
Hey everyone.
And joining us for the first time in our Boba Fett review series from the MCU's Bleeding Edge, Jeff Sloboda.
Hey, it's good to be back.
We've missed you, brother. Before we start, I would like to ask you all to hit that like and subscribe button and maybe join our forum on Sakaar, sakaar.freeforums.net. It's a nice little forum, nice people, good discussion. And if you join, you can be on the podcast or review. Also, please make sure to check out the YouTube channel of Jeff, the MCU's Bleeding Edge. We will throw down a link in the description. We're going to talk spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, go check that out first and then come back to the video. Well, let's just dive right into it. I'm going to just say it. My mind was blown. How about yours? Loki's mom, you go first.
Yeah, I was a bit taken aback by this episode. It really, not that the Mandalorian, I mean, that part was great, getting to see him again, but how they did it, I mean, it was very slow paced. It took up a lot of time to tell not a lot of a story. And I think that really just sort of stopped the whole thing cold for me. And Boba Fett's not even in this episode. He could have at least made it one appearance. I think that could have worked. So that's just my initial thoughts on it.
Okay, well, fair enough. Taylor?
I love the episode. It was episode 1 of season 3 of The Mandalorian and episode 5 of Boba Fett. So I loved it. I had a great time watching it. I think it did really well. And, we'll get into details, but my initial thoughts is good.
LDM.
I enjoyed the episode a lot, despite being initially confused as to what exactly was happening. The expectation was to see Boba Fett at some point. But that being said, other than some minor critique I have around really drawing out certain parts of the episode and compressing parts of the episode that you might wanted to have gone into more detail with, like I didn't know that we needed that lengthy a montage of building an attack fighter versus the shorter confrontation with the Vizsla clan and the rights over the Darksaber. But we'll get into more detail on that. Overall, I did enjoy the episode.
Yes. Well, Jeff, it's your first appearance on our Boba Fett review series. So beside this episode, I will give you a minute to elaborate about what you think of the show. And
Grandmaster, you give me a whole minute? Oh, man,
yeah.
I feel really special, man.
Hey.
Now I feel great.
I'm in a good mood. You can take 2.
Listen, it takes me 1 minute just to get warmed up for one of my fucking tangents. Are you kidding me, dude? Like, come on now. Anyways, but no, hey, you know what? I just started watching The Mandalorian today because of episode 5 of Boba Fett. I felt like I had to, at that point, go ahead and start watching The Mandalorian so I can really kind of understand things at the same level that all of you guys do. You know what I mean? And have all of that that story and that knowledge kind of like back there to work with. But obviously, like, not having watched The Mandalorian, I really didn't know what the hell was going on at first. And then I kind of figured it out. And basically, for me, it was my first experience with The Mandalorian. So, like, I was learning about the character and trying to understand him and what's going on with him and what's his, what are his goals, what are his motivations, and kind of basically so much went on and there was all this like really deep shit that happened, like, you know, like dramatic stuff that happened during the episode between him and like his other Mandalorian, folks or whatever. I was just immersed in it and enjoying it and everything, and kind of learning, I guess, and trying to figure out what the hell was going on. And I mean, honestly, if I started watching The Mandalorian just a little while ago, if episode 5 of Boba Fett is any like indication of what I'm going to get out of The Mandalorian, then I'm pretty fucking pleased about that.
Well, there was a lot of lore in this episode, especially about Mandalorian. And if you're not up to speed like Jeff is not the biggest Star Wars fan, so then I can imagine you get a little bit confused and have some questions. But maybe we can help you out here as well.
Hey, you know what? It's interesting, Grandmaster, if you don't mind. I get like, hey. If they're trying to grab fans, if they're trying to grab new fans and bring energy back to like the Star Wars, universe and everything, this does it.
Yeah, even if you don't know what it all means, it still looked awesome. And well, that's basically what Star Wars is: awesome pictures. Taylor, elaborate.
Yeah, again, I loved the episode. I loved seeing what the Mandalorian has been doing since last we saw him. Doesn't bother me at all that we had a Boba Fett episode that doesn't have a Boba Fett. Lots of TV shows do that. They'll do an episode where the quote unquote star or main character is not there and it's focused on a different character. That's fine. That changes things up. And again, it's showing us what Boba Fett's been doing, where he's at, where his mind is at. He still doesn't know what to do with this Darksaber thing. He doesn't want to be leader of the All Mandalore or whatever it's called, but he needs a ship, so he went and took a commercial flight to Tatooine, I guess, to get a new ship. He wanted a replace. The lady told him she had a replacement. Didn't realize it was going to be an old fighter from Naboo, I guess. But I actually loved that scene where they were building that thing. I thought it was fascinating when they were rebuilding it. And that's just one of the things Star Wars does. It has that attention to detail of the little things, like the little mechanics of machines and stuff in the Star Wars universe. So I was all good with that. We now know where he stands with his clan, and I also find it very fascinating how there are 2 different types of Mandalorians. There are 2 different sects or groups or whatever you want to call them of Mandalorians. The ones that are strictly adherent to the old ways, and the ones that have more laid back ways, which is like Bo-Katan and her friends, and he's kind of in the middle of them now. Well, he's been thrown out of the old ones because he took his helmet off like the new ones do. So again, all that lore wrapped up real quick. A great scene where he test flew the new ship. Some action scenes where he had that duel with the other Mandalorian. Yeah, but I thought it set the pace, set the stage really well for him to continue. I guess he's going to go take a present to Baby Yoda and then come back and join Boba Fett and kick some pike ass, I'm assuming, is what's going to happen next. But yeah, I thought it was all good.
Loki's mom, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, what Taylor said when he's talking about he really enjoyed putting the ship together, and I actually thought that. I said, well, I bet while it was kind of boring to me, I was thinking, well, I bet the fans though really would like that because they're kind of getting and showing the ship and the nuts and bolts of it and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I can see where he's coming from that. I think it just, for someone like me, it lost me, because I'm just not that into that part of it.
It reminded me a little bit of that episode in season 1 of The Mandalorian where he had to repair a ship after the Jawas had their way with it. Remember that? Yeah, there was they also had a sequence where they had to put together the ship. Lord Deathman, come at me with your nitpicks and stuff.
Right. This one's going to be tough for me because I enjoyed this episode a lot. I wouldn't go as far as a lot of the fans are saying that this was, like a top tier Disney Plus Star Wars episode, but I really enjoyed it. But I do have to say that, if we're being honest, all things being equal, this was an episode of The Mandalorian. If not for a few minutes that get tacked on at the end of the episode where we sort of get back to Boba Fett's story, this is really about the continuing journey of The Mandalorian. And while I love the episode on that basis, if it was in a season of The Mandalorian, it probably would have been one of the better episodes. I think as an episode of the Book of Boba Fett, it does a disservice to Boba Fett. And again, I'm not climbing too high up on this soapbox. I've heard a lot of hyperbole amongst the fans, like, oh, look at how The Mandalorian embarrassed Boba Fett in his own show and that kind of trash talking. I'm not there with it. But I certainly do agree with the idea that perhaps someone at Disney said, you know, we're not getting the type of response that we had hoped to get with the Boba Fett show. The fans seem divided, that they kind of interjected in the middle of the programming a Mandalorian intermission to sort of remind us why this has been such a great moment in Star Wars TV on Disney Plus. So I think strictly on the basis of really counting this as an episode of The Mandalorian, it's a fantastic episode. And I have very few criticisms with it. I really liked the expansion on the idea of the clans, the culture of The Mandalorian. I loved getting back to the Armorer. She's a great character. Paz Vizsla, seeing him again. Again, you know, we're back on The Mandalorian, and that stuff was great. I didn't know that I needed all of that sort of N1 starfighter buildup montage that was going on forever with the droids. I think it could have been just a little shorter to give us a little more meatier story in that. But it was great to see the Mandalorian go out and take the Mandalorian, not the instrument known as a mandolin, but the Mandalorian go out and take a run in the N1 starfighter. Those were great scenes, you know. Those were a lot of fun, and they were extremely cool. So yeah, I think that really sums up my overall impression of the episode. But I wanted to give some highlights there. Really, I just think that opening sequence where he had to collect the bounty on Baez, that was just some amazing Star Wars. I was like, someone literally got cut in half. And I think all the murder bots out there in the fandom, this is the kind of thing they want to see. They want to see like a dude in a helmet commit acts of hyperviolence to drive the story. They're not really into the more cerebral and slower paced story of the Book of Boba Fett that we've been getting thus far. But I've just loved that stuff as a character driven story about Boba Fett. And expanding on the character. I mean, I think there's a reason we love The Mandalorian probably a little bit more than Boba Fett. And that's because we've had a lot more story about The Mandalorian comparatively when you look at Boba Fett throughout the whole entirety of the Star Wars franchise on film. So, yeah, that about sums it up for me.
Mm. Yeah, my only critique was there was a little bit too much talk from Amy Sedaris, but that gets old really quick in my book. But she isn't that funny.
But I really enjoyed the interaction between the Mandalorian and the little droids and stuff when he was working on the ship. That was actually one of my something I enjoyed during the show. Was like his personality and character, like with interacting with the droids and just the dialogue and everything, even though I know it was kind of like filler or whatever, like in the episode, I guess, kind of, it was cool to me. Like I dug it. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually want to point out that there was also an episode in The Mandalorian Season 2 that was very heavy on Boba Fett. So it kind of balances out. And, well, Taylor, the shots of the Night of the Thousand Tears, or whatever it was called, I thought that was absolutely amazing. I mean, we're talking about a TV show, and that, well, if that was not from a movie, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Showing the Empire's destruction of Mandalore. And I don't know where it comes from. I do know where it comes from. There are biases out there. And there are people on the internet, some of them we know, that just make up stuff to complain about with these shows. And I've actually seen them online saying how these shows are cheap. They're cheap. They're like, they say they're like CW shows from 2000 or something like that. And it's just ridiculous.
No,
it's absurd. Yeah. This is movie theater level quality special effects and writing and acting. And they just make this stuff up. And that scene that you're talking about is one example.
Yeah.
Another scene that I really liked was when he did that test flight. He took it through the canyons there, and he went through some of the same places that Anakin did his pod race in the first movie, The Phantom Menace, or episode 1, I should say. I thought that was pretty cool, as well as that opening action scene in the slaughterhouse where he kicked all those aliens' butts to get the bounty. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot there. I think the fight in the basement with the other guy, the other Mandalorian, with the darksaber, that was the most interesting to me. I mean, fighting the sword, it getting heavy. That was actually the most interesting part of the whole episode for me. But the people will get their wish. The Mandalorian will do some stuff for free for Boba Fett in the next 2 episodes we will still get. So I don't think we're in trouble. I first go to Lord Deathman, then Jeff, then Taylor, and then Loki's mom. Lord Deathman.
Had a quick anecdote about CW TV episodes. On average, they cost about $2 million per. An episode of The Mandalorian costs about $25 million. Just so we're dealing with a little bit of scale there for those who are detractors.
And it shows. I mean, the effects are incomparable between those two entities. I told Jeff I will go to him next.
What is the CW network? I've never heard of that. They actually have TV shows on there?
We'd be doing you a favor not filling you in.
Oh, okay.
From what I have seen,
reruns of
it's
Evolve.
not worth subscribing.
It's the Arrowverse.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know Renee one time told me I should check it out or whatever, that they had good quality television shows on there, but
you like reruns of Hee Haw.
Taylor?
I would actually rather watch reruns of Hee Haw, actually.
Taylor, you had some other comments?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to do a side note when Lord Deathman was talking. How cool was that space station setting thing that the other Mandalorians were living on? And they were living underneath it, hanging out into space there.
Yeah.
And the thing was huge. It was like a gigantic city in space. I thought that was extremely creative.
And they were in the basement of it, like the substrate, as Mando called it. And it was still gorgeous.
They were on a bridge, and he actually fell off it at one point and used his rocket pack to get back up there. So they were just hanging out there. It was very fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Loki's mom.
Oh yeah, I totally agree as far as the stage design or set design. I mean, it was gorgeous. And really, I mean, we really haven't been in outer space, doing rocket ships and stuff and stuff like that up till now. So that was a welcome. I welcome that part. One thing I wanted to point out is here we have this dynamic that's going to go on, because I guess for the next couple of episodes, and we can assume that Boba Fett and Mandalorian are going to be intertwined in the next Mandalorian series. I'm just going to make this assumption. But the Mandalorian Mando, or I think Djarin, I think is his real name. He's all been very much the samurai, the man of his culture, his society, and he adheres to his religion very devoutly. And then Boba Fett has the Beskar armor, which he's not entitled to because he's not of the Mandalorian people. He's a renegade. He's using this illegally, as it were, or sacrilegiously, really. Now, because of his admitting that he removed his mask to the woman leader there, whatever she was called, the blacksmith, he's been cast out of what few remain Mandalorian. There are, I guess there are only 3 on that. Now there's only 2 on that space station, but now he has been thrown into the renegade character also, which if you want to do comparison to the samurai, then he's a Ronin at this point. And of course, we just talked about Ronin in the other Hawkeye series, so just kind of like to point that out. So he's now an outlaw, and he's going to be participating in frontier justice with Boba Fett.
Well, basically, they're now the same, Boba Fett and Timitar.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Well, I freaking love Ronan, so if Ronan is gonna pop up all of a sudden in the damn show or something else, that would be great. I'd love that. That would be an addition that I would enjoy. But no, is it just me, or did that whole planet or like structure or whatever that they were on not look exactly like the ring from Halo?
Yeah, it did look like a ring world, Jeff.
Was that not Lord Deathman? Was that not exactly like a copy, a mirrored image of like the ring from Halo?
I wouldn't go as far as a mirror image copy, but I would say that it has a lot in common with the Halo ring world, except for the microclimates on those ring worlds.
That I'll tell you what, the lore of like that whole Halo universe is actually very intriguing. But I digress. No, that was basically just my only comment. That and just that I noticed that Taylor has a Star Trek shirt on today, and that made me think about the fact that I wanted to just put it out there that me and Lord Deathman have been trekking it up lately on Trekker's Delight recently and getting after it, doing some Star Trek, just so everybody knows.
We go to their show to burn down their house, basically.
Oh.
But we digress.
I wish I could join the fire squad, but yeah. Anyway, Lord Deathman, you also had a follow-up comment.
I did. I just wanted to point out one more highlight from this episode. Again, considering it as mostly a Mandalorian episode, because they go so deeply into where he is now on his own journey, like what things we expect to see in the next season. But I love the deep dive into the culture, the religion, when the armorer pointedly confronts him about the situation with his helmet. That just reminds you that being a Mandalorian is not just being of a specific race or living in a specific place, but it is a creed. And to disavow yourself or to disobey that creed really brings a lot of consequences. And I'm really eager to see what his journey is going to be like to go back to the mines of Mandalore, to get baptized in the waters there, to sort of make up for his transgressions as far as his religion is concerned. And so that was a big plus for me in the episode. I just think Star Wars is handling things like their world building in a way that's not just fan service, like hearing about Tor Vizsla, which is a character you would know from the extended universes or from other media. This isn't a new story. Tor Vizsla and the Darksaber have been in the Star Wars lore for a long time. But incorporating it here in The Mandalorian is such a satisfying payoff. These guys are really at the top of their game in terms of world building, which is what I love the most about sci-fi fiction and fantasy. Yeah. I also really enjoyed seeing Mando fly commercial. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. I half and half expected something to be missing from that box when he arrived on Tatooine. But actually, I don't really get the complaint that this was a complete Mando episode in a Boba Fett show, because isn't that what Star Wars is trying to do? To create that universe where things can cross over, where things are intertwined and go apart again. I mean, that's the goal, right? Or did I misunderstand that?
I don't really get the criticism either, but I say that I'm not completely discounting what some of the fans are saying, because if this was a Fennec Shand episode, or somebody who is on the Book of Boba Fett, and then we suddenly moved away from his story, but we continued it with one of the side characters there, that would have seemed way more organic. That's incorporated into the story. But when I'm trying to be objective about it, this really was a continuation of the Mandalorian's journey until you get to the end of the episode where he meets Fennec Shand, and then the Boba Fett part of the story kind of gets treated a little bit as an afterthought. So I wouldn't put it past Disney executives to have said, again, we're not getting the greatest response here. Let's hijack a slower episode from the upcoming season of the Mandalorian and put it.
I don't think that's the case.
Man, you know this whole season was shot months ago, right?
Yeah, and the Mandalorian season 3 is not shooting at all.
Mandalorian.
Well, other than that ending, there is really nothing in the episode that points to what Boba and his story is all about. This really is a Mandalorian. You could have put this, if you took that ending with Fennec Shan off, this could have been an episode. It could have been the opening episode of the next season of The Mandalorian.
That's what I said actually when I first commented. I said it was episode 1 of season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But it was necessary because if he just showed up in Boba Fett one day and we didn't know where he's been since the end of the last season, and there would have been a big void. We needed this information to know where he is at and what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree with Taylor here. I'm sorry, Lord Deathman. But
No, no,
I'm teaming up with the fan without fear.
That's okay. Look, I enjoy being out on the fringe, but what I want to say, and the reason I'm acknowledging this or, putting forth my opinion is because I want Boba Fett to succeed. They're telling a fantastic story about a character that I've never really gotten the hype over Boba Fett. And I'm just going to be real with you guys. Like 4 seconds of story somehow makes him the ultimate badass of the Star Wars universe. Never bought into it. But now that I'm seeing that backstory and they're doing such a good job with this series, I don't think that they had to hijack that momentum by taking their most popular Star Wars series character and doing a whole episode about him in the middle of it. It undermines Boba Fett. And that's the only reason I'm acknowledging that this does seem a little misplaced, as much as I enjoyed seeing Mando come back. This was for the greater glory of Mando and not Boba Fett. So it's a bit of a slight.
I understand what you're saying, but I just don't agree with it. I just thought
that's fine. That's fine.
I agree with Taylor. If Mando just showed up in episode 5, like Fennec Shand, you see the first shot you see is Fennec Shand sitting there in Mos Eisley on the edge of that garage, and then saying, "Hey Mando, you want to join up?" And then everybody would have said, "Hey, what the hell? What happened between the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian and then now with Mando?"
I guys, look, I'm there for you in terms of your opinions, but these shows go back and forth in time so much that's kind of weak. We could have easily flashed back to find out what happened at Mando at the beginning of his own show. If we did just Fennec Shand walking into the compound with the Mando and we don't know where he's been. I'm gonna write that up as a little more than weak sauce. A little more.
Okay, well, Loki Small.
Other people have their hands.
Okay, well, I'm team Lord Deathman on this.
I've got another follower, another
Oh my
acolyte.
God.
Not that I object to Mando being reintroduced in the Boba Fett story, not at all. I think that it could have been, as you say, introduced earlier in Boba Fett's story, in his narrative. We've already jumped around a lot with it. I don't think it would have been a big stretch to have put some segments of this episode that we saw scattered out through the 4 episodes that we've already seen, so that we would have a good, like I say, I think it just came as a big slap that all of a sudden here's Mando and no reference, as Lord Deathman pointed out, no reference to Boba Fett whatsoever. They could have introduced it somehow with a Boba Fett.
Yeah, they needed to bring more of the elements of the Boba Fett story. And I'm really sorry to interrupt you, Loki's mom, but I agree with you 100%. They needed to really tie this a little bit more to the Boba Fett story for me to give them a pass on a Mando themed episode. Right.
And so I think my critique is more of an edit. I think the editing has not been handled as well. I think that's true in some of the other episodes. I've been thinking back on it. How would this whole narrative play out if it was done more linear? If we started out with the whole story of Boba, coming, however long he had to stay with the Tuskens, got to where he was at, to where he was met Fennec and started building his team and everything like that. So far, this series, if you stop and think about it, is playing out pretty much like the first act of The Magnificent Seven, where Yul Brynner's going around and he's collecting his muscle that he's going to have to take to this village to protect them from the bad guys down in Mexico. So I think that's very much the theme here that I'm starting to get. And we're really only going to get you. We've got 2 more episodes left, and now we've got to deal with these pikes. So not a lot of time left.
Not a lot of runway left.
I'm thinking this is going to bleed over in The Mandalorian and probably going to be taken up again with the next series of Boba Fett. So, I think it may end kind of abruptly here, the whole series.
Well, we will just have to wait and see. But the truth of the matter is, we now have a schism on Sakaar between
No,
Team Lord Deathman and Team Taylor.
Well,
This
maybe
is what
we need
makes-
a tiebreaker. Jeff, we need a
Yeah.
tiebreaker.
Well, it's a
Hey.
friendly rivalry.
This is what makes the conversation so great on the show, guys. So it's all love.
Yeah, I know. But we had a little war between Taylor and Lord Deathman before, so
And it was always going to come down to that.
yeah,
The two titans.
exactly.
You guys are too locked in lockstep. There are no rules, guys. There
No,
are no
this is
rules.
a shared universe. It's the
It's a shared
second.
universe.
It's
And
like
there's
the
nothing new about
MCU.
this. You know that there are many episodes of Gunsmoke where Matt Dillon doesn't even appear.
I did
It's
not know
nothing
that.
new. There are.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely know one place where there are no rules, brother, and that is the Bleeding Edge.
We are well aware of that, Jeff. We are well aware.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think Matt Dillon didn't appear in the first 5 episodes of Gunsmoke Run. I think he was in every one of those episodes.
Again, to be fair, the second season of The Mandalorian ended with Boba Fett. There were at least 2 episodes where Boba Fett stole the show in The Mandalorian season 2. So
Exactly.
this is just balancing out, and that's the point of a shared universe.
Exactly. Look at it this way. It's one shared universe. Think of it like as a book. And there are a few chapters devoted to Boba Fett, and then there's a chapter
Right,
devoted
exactly.
to Mandalorian, and then there's going to be chapters of more Boba Fett and Mandalorian together. Then we're going to have, chapters of Bo-Katan, which is going to bleed over with both shows. It's all one thing.
Yeah, you get the Ahsoka show, which is also set in the same timeline. So you will have things coming from Boba Fett show bleeding in that. And I think I don't know if the show still comes for the Rangers of the New Republic. I don't know if it's cancelled, but that's also set in this timeline at this point in the timeline. So yeah, there could be. This is what Star Wars wants. They want to emulate the MCU, and well, that's the biggest compliment for Kevin Feige you could ever imagine. Star Wars wanting to be like what he created. Jeff.
You already stole my thunder. I was going to jump right in, Grandmaster, and say this: they're copying, they're tailoring their universe and following the formula of the MCU. You know what I mean? They everybody at this point in the film world, anybody with eyes and ears has figured out that the whole interconnectivity aspect of like the MCU, especially the Infinity Saga films, like was the driving force, like one of the massive aspects of it that made it so popular. That made it possible for for there to be a 23 movie buildup or whatever, or 21 movie buildup, leading to like these like massive cultural impactful events like Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, it also gets fans hooked on one thing, and then they realize there's more, and they go check that out as well. It's basically you make awesome stuff and connect it to each other. It will increase the money you will make. And,
it's almost like the relationship that the Bleeding Edge has with the Podcast of Champions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
We grow together.
Yeah, exactly.
We're a shared universe.
Yeah, exactly. Where Jeff plays the role of Jar Jar Binks.
Oh.
Nice. I'm gonna assume that's a compliment.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Well, am I Princess Leia?
He is a senator at the end.
Oh, I remember who the hell you're talking about now. Jar Jar, that freaking idiot from that freaking Star Wars film. You got to be kidding me. Hey, Grandmaster, that was not very nice of you, man.
Ah, man. I'm just messing with you, man. And you know it.
Oh, I can take it. Don't worry about it. I'm okay. Believe me, you should hear some of the shit I've heard in my comment section on YouTube recently.
You're Jar Jar Binks. I'm Jabba the Hutt, so who cares?
Hey.
Jabba's small compared to me. But anyway, I think that wraps up our review for episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett, or episode 1 of season 3 of The Mandalorian. At least it's called Return of the Mandalorian. Before we finish, I would like to ask you all to hit that subscribe button and notification bell on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, like our Facebook page. Join the forum on Sakaar. That way you will never miss us, and we won't have to miss you. Bye.